Section 54 of The Treasure Chest of My Bookhouse. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Jill Engel. The Treasure Chest of My Bookhouse. Edited by Olive Beaupre Miller. The Stealing of I Duna. A Norse Myth. It happened once that Odin, the All-Father, king of the gods, with Honir, his brother, and Loki, the mischief-maker, started out of Asgard, the home of the gods, down across the bridge of the rainbow to journey around the world. At eventide they came to a densely wooded mountain, and being an-hungered, yet finding no dwelling in sight, they caught an ox from a herd that stood grazing near, and dressed the meat for their supper. Then did Loki, god of fire, kindle a flame to cook the food. But the time being come for the meat to be done, lo, it was raw, as in the beginning. Another fire made Loki, but all in vain. As raw was the meat as before. Then Loki, Odin, and Honir heard a noise in the branches above them. Looking up, they perceived an eagle, fanning the meat with his wings, and sending a cold wind upon it that prevented it from roasting. "Done to a turn will be your meat," croaked the eagle, "if you will promise me as much as I can eat." "Nay, then," cried the three out of Asgard, "join us and eat what thou wilt." So the eagle left off fanning the meat. It was soon cooked, and they all went to help themselves. But the eagle, first of all, seized 3/4 of the whole ox. Then was Loki angered. Seizing a stick lying near, he began to belabor the greedy bird. No sooner had he done so than one end of the pole stuck fast in the eagle's feathers, and the other stuck fast to Loki's hands. Up flew the bird, and off trailed Loki after him, scraped through briery thickets and straggling branches of trees, jammed against rocks and stones, his arms nearly torn from their sockets, so was Loki dragged. Then he knew that the eagle was in truth no eagle, but Thiassi, the fierce frost giant. In vain he begged for mercy. The bird flew on the faster. Again and again he begged. "On one condition only will I let thee go," croaked Thiassi, "that thou lure out of Asgard the lovely I Duna, and give her into my power, with a dish of her magic apples, partaking of which keeps the dwellers in Asgard for ever young." At length Thiassi wrung from Loki the sorry promise to do as he bade him, and Loki was set free. Bedraggled and torn, back went Loki to Asgard. Now Iduna, spirit of the spring and of immortal youth, was loveliest of all the goddesses in Asgard. Tender green were her garments, on her head a wreath of flowers. Lightly she glided over the earth. At her approach the trees burst into bloom. Myriads of flowers sprang up, tinkling brooks awoke and laughed and leapt for joy. Everywhere was stir, activity, and life. Never was age where Iduna was, but always youth, eternal youth. And Iduna kept carefully guarded in her charge a tree that bore wonderful apples, which made him who ate them forever young. It was to partake of that eternal youth that the cruel frost giant wished to get possession of Iduna and her apples. The husband of Iduna was Bragi, the god of poesy, who sings the wondrous song of life that scales the highest heavens and searches the depths of hell. Whenever he sings and plays on his golden harp, the flowers that spring up at Iduna's approach reveal their inmost charm and grace. The blending colors of earth and sky reveal their inmost harmony. The laughter of brooks, the songs of birds reveal their inmost joy. All nature finds a tongue and speaks and yields up the very secret of her being. To separate Iduna from Bragi was no easy task, but Loki waited until he saw the minstrel go forth on a journey from Asgard to earth, leaving Iduna unguarded. Then the mischief-maker went whither Iduna wandered alone in the midst of her flowery gardens. "Iduna," said he, "just without the gates of Asgard, I have found a tree that bears finer apples than thine. Sweeter to the taste are they, and lovelier, and indeed I doubt not they restore youth and strength as well as thine." "Nay now," cried Iduna, "in all the world are none such apples as mine." "Come then with me and see," said Loki, "and bring with thee a dish of thine own apples, that we may compare the two." Into a crystal dish did Iduna then put her precious apples, and off with the wily Loki she went. Scarcely were the two without the safe protected gates of Asgard, than Thiassi, in his eagle plumage, swooped down upon Iduna. As the storm swoops, as the storm rushes, when down from the mountain tops the wild north wind comes roaring, so came Thiassi. From his frosty wings fell snow, from his breath exhaled the cold that blasted all about. In his talons he seized Iduna, and bore her off to his wintry home in the storm-bound land of Trimheim. There he shut her up in a chamber in the rocks, against which all day long resounded the boom and crash of the sea. Each day he came and asked her to give him a bite of her apples, for not unless Iduna herself gave out the precious fruit would he who partook thereof find his youth and strength renewed, and every day Iduna stoutly refused. He whined and begged and threatened in vain, for no such creature of evil was the gift of eternal youth, and when Thiassi himself thrust his great fist in the dish to seize an apple, the fruit only dwindled and shrunk till it disappeared altogether. Long were the days, long were the months, while Iduna stayed in Trimheim. In Asgard the heavens, and Midgard the earth, spring and summer were gone. Cold winter held sway. Leaves turned brown and fell, bird-songs were hushed, flowers withered and drooped on their stalks, brooklets froze up into motionless silence, and all things seemed old and dying. In Asgard old age came stealing even upon the gods. Where, oh, where was Iduna? Bragi mourned for her, Odin mourned for her, mourned all the dwellers in Asgard, mourned all the people of earth. Then did Odin, the All-Father, summon a council to consider what should be done. Thither all Asgard gathered, save Loki. Loki dared not appear. When Odin perceived that Loki alone was absent, he ordered Bragi to fetch him, the maker of mischief. In the presence of Odin, before the might of his majesty, Loki was forced to pour out the tale of what he had done. Sternly Odin bade him go and bring back Iduna, or never more dare show his face in Asgard. So Loki borrowed of the goddess Freya her cloak of falcon feathers, and with this he was able to fly over land and sea to the rock-bound coast of Trimheim. Here in her gloomy cell he found the lovely Iduna. Thiassi, it chanced, was from home, so Loki forced his way through a narrow opening into her prison. Much she rejoiced to see him. He turned her at once into a swallow, and flew off with her in his talons. Not far had he gone when he heard a rushing behind him. There in rapid pursuit was Thiassi. On and on flew Loki. On and on flew Thiassi, gaining little by little. On the walls of Asgard stood the gods, wrinkled and bent and gray, watching far to southward over the sea, watching, longing for the coming of Iduna. At length they made out the falcon, Loki, and Thiassi hot on his heels. Long and anxiously watched they. Now Thiassi seemed pouncing on Loki's back, but always Loki escaped and flew with his precious burden on and on and on. As he neared the city of refuge, Loki's strength seemed almost failing. Then up rose the dwellers in Asgard, and lit great fires on the walls that leapt and flamed to the heavens. Safe through the blaze and smoke dashed Loki, Loki the god of fire. But when Thiassi, creature of cold and storm, plunged blundering through. Down he fell, suffocating, to his end, beneath the mighty hammer of Thor. Then Loki let loose the swallow, and up sprang the lovely Iduna herself, to be tenderly welcomed by Bragi, Odin, and all the rest. And with Iduna and her apples, back to Asgard came youth and the joyous life of the spring. End of section 54. Recording by Jill Ingle. The world. At eventide they came to a densely wooded mountain, and being an-hungered, yet finding no dwelling in sight, they caught an ox from a herd that stood grazing near, and dressed the meat for their supper. Then did Loki, god of fire, kindle a flame to cook the food, but the time being come for the meat to be done, lo, it was raw, as in the beginning. Section 54 of The Treasure Chest of My Book House. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Jill Ingle. The Treasure Chest of My Book House. Edited. Another fire made Loki, but all in vain. As raw was the meat as before. Then Loki, Odin, and Hrungnir heard a noise in the branches above them. Looking up, they perceived an eagle, fanning the meat with his wings, and sending a cold wind upon it that prevented it from roasting. "Done to a turn will be your meat," croaked the eagle, "if you will promise me as much as I can eat." "Nay, then," cried the three out of Asgard, "join us and eat what thou wilt." So the eagle left off fanning the meat. It was soon cooked, and they all went to help themselves. But the eagle, first of all, seized 3/4 of the whole ox. Then was Loki angered. Seizing a stick lying near, he began to by Olive Beaupre Miller. The Stealing of Iduna, a Norse Myth. It happened once that Odin, the All-Father, king of the gods, with Hrungnir, his brother, and Loki, the mischief-maker, started out of Asgard, the home of the gods, down across the bridge of the rainbow to journey around